So, in a somewhat surprising move, the Yankees have released Marcus Stroman in the second year of what was a 2-year deal with a vesting option for a third year. The vesting option, I believe, was 140 innings in 2025. He's only thrown 39. He's had very limited success as a Yankee. When we brought him in, I was critical of the move due to his tendency to give up the long ball and his subpar performances in the playoffs. He never ended up getting into a playoff game for the Yankees, and he did, in fact, struggle with giving up the long ball. 19 home runs last year, 6 in only 9 games this year. And his second highest career walk total as well last year, only 0.8 WAR in 154 innings pitched. So a pretty far from productive season for Marcus Stroman last year. For sure not one of our best starters, and he didn't make the playoff rotation as a result. I'm not critical from this move from a roster perspective necessarily. I'm not critical of it from a financial perspective either. I'm only critical of it in terms of I don't really understand who our sixth starter is going to be now. Luis Gil is obviously the immediate replacement for Stroman. He's going to come back very soon. He's making rehab starts, and I would say that he is a better pitcher than Stroman right now, so there's no problem there. I would just rather have Stroman as pitching depth over Cam Schlittler and Will Warren, and I'm pretty sure that's true of most Yankee fans too. Cam Schlittler hasn't had a long enough spell in the major leagues to convince me, and Will Warren hasn't convinced me at all this year. I'm honestly not a very big Will Warren fan. I don't mind him as a number 5, but sort of this is mean, but sort of in the way that I don't mind anybody as a number 5. He's just your number 5. You know, sometimes you got a number 5 and a number 6. I'm not sure who the number 6 is in this Yankees rotation, and that concerns me. Heaven forbid Rodon, Fried, or Gil go down. But after that, who do you have as that number 3 starter? Is there a Yankee fan out there that wants Cam Schlittler or Will Warren starting a playoff game? I really don't think there are. And this is a team that I'm at least projecting to struggle enough in the playoffs right now. At least if this depth that they've added to the bullpen, and especially this depth that they've added to the bench, which you're going to hear me talk a lot about in my Yankees trade deadline grades video that's going to come out next. You know, that's going to go a long way, but you need that pitching depth. You need that insurance. And Marcus Stroman was a little bit of insurance, expensive as it was, and now he's gone. I understand it from a psychological perspective. Marcus Stroman is the kind of pitcher who thinks he's the ace of every staff that he's on. And he said as much. He thinks that he likes to act like the ace wherever he goes. And that's cool. That's great for his career. And it's a big part of his personality as who he is as an athlete. But it doesn't really fit this Yankees team going into a playoff series. I think it's smart in that you get a player who maybe had, this is a tough thing to say, but maybe the biggest me first attitude in the entire clubhouse, and you take him off the team. Maybe he was somebody who just didn't really get along too well with other people on the team. Maybe it wasn't even disagreements. It could have just been that he sort of kept to himself, and they wanted somebody who was more with the larger group of people on the team who sort of all get along with each other. And that's a very important thing from the perspective of team building and psychology when it comes to a task like overcoming a divisional deficit, competing with a hungry Red Sox team, a hungry Blue Jays team, and trying to win an extremely competitive AL East and get out of an extremely competitive and now even more competitive American League, especially when you bring in a bunch of brand new players who need to be bought in all the way and aren't going to want to see somebody with an attitude of, I'm the ace no matter who the actual ace is. I'm the ace no matter what anybody else says. I mean, it gets a little immature when you've got Carlos Rodon, Max Fried, and Garrett Cole on the same team as you. Like, Marcus, you aren't the ace no matter how well you do. And when you've got an ERA over 6, you really have nothing to stand on there. So it's no disrespect intended to Marcus Stroman at all. He's a great pitcher. I'm a big fan of him, especially for him making the most of his size. But he hasn't had the best tenure as a Yankee, and I don't know if he was ever the best fit on this team. So what do you guys think about Marcus Stroman? What do you guys think about his time as a Yankee? Do you have a negative opinion? Do you have a more positive opinion of Marcus Stroman's time in the league? Throw me a like and subscribe, and stay tuned for my Yankees trade deadline grades video, where I'm going to go through and grade every Yankees trade deadline deal. And then after that, I'm going to do a similar deal for every MLB team, not one video for every team, but a big video either of trade deadline grades for each team, which might take a little longer to edit and be a little more of a labor-intensive process, or the more likely video, a trade deadline winners and losers, where I may give you 5 teams, 7 teams who won the deadline, 5 teams, 7 teams who didn't do so well at the deadline. So keep an eye out for both of those videos. Those videos are hopefully going to be out soon within the next week, and stay tuned.